Hey guys, this is Ben Lewis of Matchpoint Canada. We're here for a special episode, a Women's Australian Open's finals preview. We have Elena Rybakina taking on Aryna Sabalenka, and here to join me for the preview, he's a writer and editor for Popcorn Tennis. He is also the co-host of the Tennis and Bagels podcast, Owen Lewis, who I know is over in Melbourne taking in all the action. Owen, thanks for chatting with me about the final.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, happy to have you. This is a really intriguing matchup. Elena Rybakina going for her second major in the last three, which is fascinating in its own right because it feels like she doesn't get the press and she doesn't get spoken about so often. And Aryna Sabalenka, who, as we both know, has had a terrific career to date, but is seeking that elusive first major. I suppose my first question, out of the both of them, who has maybe looked the strongest to you, and are you surprised by the final we have on the women's side here?
It's a good question. I'll start with the second part. I'm not shocked. I'll say that at the start of the tournament, I did expect Iga Swiatek to be in the final because she was world number one, won two majors last year. But looking at how the tournament has unfolded and the way Rybakina beat her and the way the form both players have been in, I don't think it's a surprise at all that we've got this final. And as for who looks better, I have to go with Rybakina. I mean, it's not that Sabalenka has been unimpressive. Like, she's beaten Belinda Bencic, Donna Vekic. But you look at Rybakina's run, and she's taken out Danielle Collins, Iga Swiatek, Elena Ostapenko, Vika Azarenka in the semis, a two-time champion of this event. I mean, that's a murderer's row, and I don't think she dropped a set to any of those four. So, yeah, I think her run's been amazing.
Yeah, both of their runs have been awesome, honestly. And I was grappling with this question too. I mean, Rybakina did drop the one set to Danielle Collins, and I thought that was actually really difficult matchup if you think about it on paper. Collins always plays incredibly well in Melbourne. She was a
Yeah.
finalist last year. A very tough sort of early round match probably for both players. And then, of course, Rybakina has the win of the tournament, taking out the world number one. I look at Sabalenka and some of her counting stats from this tournament, and that's where I'm very, very impressed. Not only not dropping a set, but throughout all of these wins, having a plus count on her winners to errors margin. She's posted
Mm-hmm.
over 30 winners in each of her last six matches, which has been unbelievable. And then just coming into that form as well, she led off with that title in Adelaide, 10-0 now, 20-0 in sets. So I don't know that I want to say Rybakina is necessarily playing better. I feel like we are sort of getting a matchup of the two most informed players at the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. It feels very much like unstoppable force versus immovable object. I think Sabalenka has that stat. Like, she's winning almost half of her points with clean winners, which is ridiculous. Like, I mean, we know she's a power player and hits the crap out of the ball, but that's just amazing. So, and yeah, it's a good point that she hasn't even dropped a set this whole year. So, I mean, she's going to be a tough out, absolutely.
Yeah, so if we get in, I guess, to the nuts and bolts of this matchup, for Sabalenka, if you're saying, if Aryna Sabalenka is going to win her first major here in Melbourne, what are going to be the keys for her to maybe dissect and break down Rybakina's game?
Well, it starts with getting the serve back because Rybakina has an amazing serve. I mean, the stat that I would point to is in the semi against Azarenka, Rybakina only made 48% of her first serves in the opening set, and she won it anyway. And then in the second set, she started to serve better, and once that happened, there was no chance. And so, I think got to get some first serves back, can't miss second serve returns. And then once you get into the rallies, you can worry about attacking a little more.
Yeah, look, another interesting stat, I guess, for both of these players. It seems like the way they attack and how they sort of construct their game plans, they want to play a very similar style. And you look at
Yeah.
the matches they've been winning, they're really controlling that sort of 0 to 4 shot rally range. Obviously, it's very first strike tennis for both of them. They both serve well. I think Rybakina, I mean, maybe you debate this, but I think right now she has the best serve in the women's game, at
I
least
agree.
over the
Yeah.
past couple weeks. Sabalenka, I feel like a key for her is she's cleaned up her double faults, which was, the
Yes,
storyline
absolutely.
of all of 2022. So if she's not giving away those points, it feels like a matchup that we might be going deep into sets like 7-5,
Yeah.
7-6 type of exchanges.
Yeah, I remember. I think the Wimbledon semi in like 2021 between Sabalenka and Pliskova. Um, I think that was like 3 sets, 3 long sets, a lot of big serving, and I think this could be similar to that. I think it's going to be all about that first strike, who can back the opponent up, who can get in that first strike, who can get the opponent on the run.
Now, you've been on scene, you've watched a bunch of matches. Maybe it's hard to say from the side view, but how fast are these courts playing, and who do you think that would maybe benefit more?
That's a good question. I'm not the best at evaluating court speed, but I think with these players and their games, it almost doesn't matter because they're so good at. I mean, if a ball hangs up for a second or if it drops a little bit short, they will hit it for a winner.
Right.
During the Rybakina Azarenka semi, the second Azarenka struggled with depth even a little bit. Rybakina was starting to hit winners off of both wings. Sabalenka was pushing Magda Linette around all night. Um, so, yeah, who does it favor more? I think a quicker court would help Rybakina more because of that serve, and that's going to make it that much harder for Sabalenka to get around the serve +1. But I don't think either player is going to have a problem attacking. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's fair. And then here's where, I mean, we can get into the keys for Rybakina on winning the match now. I think Sabalenka, if we're getting into lengthier rallies, might have a bit of an edge. If we are consistently in that shorter range, maybe it's Rybakina who has the slight edge. At least that's my take.
Yeah, I agree. I think from the ground, Sabalenka probably has the edge in raw power with the ground strokes. So if she can sort of get past that serve and get into the rally, then yeah, I think I'd give her the edge as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into some predictions. I'll start with your prediction. Who are you taking in this final, and what would your score line be?
That's a tough question. I don't think I've ever gotten this question right. So I think I'm gonna go with Rybakina just because I think the serve is too good. Like I don't even think she needs to serve that well. I think she just needs to not serve badly. And that will already make it extremely difficult for Sabalenka. So I'm gonna go Rybakina 7-6, 6-3.
Seven
How
six
about
three.
you?
Okay. Okay. I will be. I mean, it's not really a wild card because I think this is a bit of a 50-50 match. But I said
Yeah.
a few rounds ago, I felt like this was Aryna Sabalenka's moment to seize that first Grand Slam title. And if she takes care of her serve and takes care of business on that end, if they get into tie breaks, I'm going to favor Sabalenka on a shot making basis. So I'm going to take Sabalenka 7-6, 5-7, 6-2. And maybe if it is more of a conditioning battle and it's deeper and a longer match there, that's probably where I'd favor Sabalenka as well.
Yeah. Hey, I would sign up for a 3-setter. I, I actually had a question for you about this.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Rybakina won Wimbledon last year, whereas Sabalenka, this is her first major final. Do you think nerves and maybe first time on the big stage will play a role?
Yeah, look, if we're talking about who the pressure is on, it feels like the pressure is on Sabalenka. Rybakina already has that first Grand Slam title. We see how she kind of operates on the court, incredibly mild-mannered, maybe the most mild-mannered player the women's tour has, sort of lack of emotion, and we get sort of emotional up and downs from Sabalenka, which she can use to her benefit. I will say I think she's managed her emotions really, really well this tournament, if that's going to help her. And I felt like she conquered a bit of a hurdle getting to this final because we've seen her close before, making, Grand Slam semifinals. Felt like she was incredibly close at the US Open just a couple of years ago when Leylah Fernandez actually beat her. And the way she's been speaking in press conference, it feels like she has a bit of a different outlook. Maybe not the strain and stress as well of having such an issue on her second serve. If that is gone, maybe she plays with a little bit of freedom, but certainly from a nerve standpoint, I feel like Sabalenka will be feeling more of the pressure.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I like that you point out the serve because I mean people are talking about this, but that was a hell of an achievement to stop hitting all those double faults because it was happening so much and so often, match to match. I think she mentioned working with a sports psychologist, and now it's like not only is she better, like it doesn't even seem to be an issue anymore, which is incredible.
Yeah, and look, I've said this before too. It's incredible that Aryna Sabalenka was playing in the WTA finals as one of the top 8 from 2022 and having the most double faults on tour. To overcome that hurdle tells me how strong she is from the back of the court.
Yeah.
But I love this matchup. I think it's, as tight as it can get. Maybe it will come down. I mean, I expect Rybakina to serve a little bit better, but if it's coming down to tie breaks, I mean, I'd love to get 3 sets for this final.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Owen, thanks so much for joining me on Matchpoint Canada for a little Women's Australian Open preview. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and the tennis.
Thanks for having me.